Oh, how's it going, everybody? We're back for another edition of All In, where I'll pick a rock artist, I'll listen to their entire discography, and give my thoughts on it. The rules go like this. The band in question must have 5 or more original studio albums. Cover albums can count. Generally, we don't talk about live or acoustic albums unless the tracks are original to that form. So, here we go. So, we're going with something rather unexpected of me. The Eagles. That's right. They're one of those bands, like, they were never really a favorite, but it was one of those bands to me that's, like, very timeless. Because my dad used to listen to the hell out of these guys when I was growing up. Like, I'm pretty sure, I know he has a vinyl of them, and I'm pretty sure he had some of their stuff on 8-track as well. So, to me, timeless. So, I wasn't even around yet whenever most of their stuff was released. But yeah, so obviously no concert experiences with them. But anyhow, let's get into it here. So, they have 7 original studio albums, ranging from their debut self-titled album in 1972, all the way up to Long Road Out of the Eden from 2007. So, but it is worth noting that 6 of their 7 albums were in the 70s, and then the Long Road Out of Eden was in 2007. But what happened is, the band was together for all those years in the 70s, and then, like, in 1980 they released a live album, and then broke up. And, of course, like, Don Henley went off on his own and released The Boys of Summer. Very popular track in the 80s, and GMC calls it the most 80s track of all time. And, of course, we got Joe Walsh, who he had a solo thing even going alongside of this in the 70s. They had some very popular solo material going on in the 80s while they were, like, off. So, let's start off. So, we're going to talk about their debut album, The Eagles, which released in 1972. So, we start off with their song, Take It Easy. Very popular track. You got Witchy Woman, Chug All Night, Most of Us Are Sad, Nightingale, Train Leaves Here This Morning, if you flip over to side 2, Take the Devil, Early Bird, Peaceful, Easy Feeling, and Tryin'. And I really enjoyed this album, like, very, very instrumental in a lot of it, And I think my dad has this on vinyl, I'm pretty sure. But well worth checking out. And then the very next year, 1973, we have Desperado. So here we end up with Doolin Dalton, 21, Out of Control. Then we have Tequila Sunrise, the very popular song Desperado. We have Certain Kind of Fool, Doolin Dalton Reprise. We have Outlaw Man, Saturday Night, Bitter Creek, and Doolin Dalton Desperado Reprise again. So then, after that, we move on to 1974's On the Border. So yeah, they've been putting it off like every year here for like the first 5 albums. Like, they were busy. We have Already Gone, really popular, damn good track. We have You Never Cry Like a Lover, Midnight Flyer, My Man, On the Border. And then on side 2, we start off with James Dean, really cool track right there. Old 55, Is It True, Good Day in Hell, and Best of My Love. So then, going from there, we move on to 1975's One of These Nights. And of course, we start off with the title track, a very popular tune right there. And then we have Too Many Hands, Hollywood Waltz, Journey of the Sorcerer, Lion Eyes, which is very, very popular. I would say, I don't know, Take It to the Limit, which is the next track. I'd say them 2 tracks right there are probably the most popular off that album. And, they were sort of like more mellow, they were more mainstream for the time. You still hear them to this day. You got Visions, After the Thrill's Gone, and I Wish You Peace. So then, moving along from that album, we move on to Hotel California in 1976. And I'm pretty sure this was one of the ones my dad had on 8-track. So here we have, of course, the title track, Hotel California. I mean, good song, but I would almost categorize that song as, like, very overplayed. I mean, you hear it everywhere still in 2026. Like, 50 years later, literally. But, I mean, not a bad song, just a little overplayed. We got New Kid in Town, Life in the Fast Lane, another good one. Wasted Time, of course, Wasted Time reprise when you flip it. Victim of Love, another good one there. Pretty Maids All in a Row, Try and Love Again, and The Last Resort. When I think Last Resort, I think Papa Roach, but that's the era that I was more in. But, yeah, definitely a good solid album right there. So, anyhow, moving on to the next, is we're still in the 70s. They take about a 3-year break from the studio, and we end up with The Long Run from 1979. And, of course, starting off again with the title track, very good tune, too. Still to this day, you hear that one, too. Can't Tell You Why, In the City, that's another popular one. The Disco Strangler, we have King of Hollywood, and then when you flip it, you have Heartache Tonight, another really good one. Those Shoes, wait, that was always played on the radio. How is that not a single? You got Teenage Jail, The Greeks Don't Want No Freaks, and we end up with A Sad Cafe. So, here at this point, this is where the studio albums end. We end up with the Eagles Live in 1980. I'm not really going to touch too much on like the tracks on that album because, you know, they're not original in the form, like I've said. The one track I do want to touch on with that live album is Seven Bridges Road, which is actually a Steve Young cover. And exclusive to the Eagles Live album in 1980. Other than that, it's just pretty much like, you know, just live versions of the songs you know and love from the Eagles. But anyhow, this is sort of where it all ends with them as far as, like, you know, like they broke up in 1980 and then that's when they all went off and did their own solo thing. And then here we are, 14 years later, we get Hell Freezes Over, which, here again, another live album, but here they actually included 4 new studio tracks in 1994 to this album. So we'll touch on that a little bit. And I do remember when this released, like, in this point in time, you know, Nirvana and Pearl Jam and all them bands were peaking in the mainstream rock charts, and, you know, like the older based rock stations were playing songs off of this album. But what we got here, we'll talk about like the 4 new songs here, and then after that, you know, it's just live versions. So we have Get Over It, which I believe was the first single from that. We have Love Will Keep Us Alive, very slow song. We have The Girl From Yesterday and Learn to Be Still. So those 4 all original to that time. Then after that we get another original from their very best of in 2003. So here we get the very best of the Eagles. They have the song called Hole in the World, and it was sort of, they actually wrote it after 9/11 happened, so it was basically a song in response to 9/11, which is pretty cool. But moving on from that, we actually get a double studio album, The Long Road Out of Eden, in 2007. Never knew about this album, never heard of it, but figured I'd check it out. And it's more, I think by this point in time in their career, they got more into like a soft rock vibe rather than like a, you know, an all-out rock and roll vibe. I don't know, it's just, I would definitely consider this more soft rock at this point. But here we have No More Walks in the Wood. We have How Long, Busy Being Fabulous, What Do I Do With My Heart, Guilty of the Crime, I Don't Want to Hear Any More, Waiting in the Woods, No More Cloudy Days, Fast Company, Do Something, You're Not Alone. And of course, you know, Disc 2, Long Road Out of Eden, I Dreamed There Was No War, Somebody, Frail Grasp on a Big Picture, and Last Good Time in Town. And I Love to Watch the Woman Dance, Business as Usual, Center of the Universe, It's Your World Now. And of course, they actually put Hole in the World as a bonus track on this too, which is, you know, kind of crazy. But I, you know, I'm not really like much into like this album per se. Just not really my style. So I feel like they could have done without it and just stuck with their '70s stuff and that's it. But rankings, how do I rank the Eagles? Like, I'm not even gonna include that album in the ranking. I'm just gonna rank like the '70s albums. That's what I'll do. So I think I definitely like their debut album the best. A lot of good solid tunes on there. As far as my least favorite in the '70s, I don't know, probably Desperado. It was a little light, but not bad. But yeah, so moving on to the next one, we're sort of shifting gears over to bands that are like lesser known. So next video is going to be about a band that I heard of them back in like the early 2000s, and then what happened to them. I totally forgot about them until like a couple years ago, and then like most other bands, they reunite and come out with new material later on. So find out who it is. We'll see you later.